Art has a unique way of connecting us all. It transforms spaces, it tells stories, and it reflects the heartbeat of our communities. From the colorful murals that brighten our city streets to the thought-provoking pieces that make us pause and reflect, art enriches our lives in so many ways. Welcome to Celebrate Michigan, the show produced on the campus of Madonna University. I'm Chris Benson. We're excited to introduce an inspiring artist who's redefining art here in Michigan. His work captures the spirit of Detroit, blending tradition with innovation to create visuals that truly move us. And I know you're going to be moved by some of the pieces we have here today. Please join me in welcoming the talented Nivek Monet to the show. Welcome. It's so good to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, thinking about art, what was your first introduction to this field, this way of life, I guess I should say?
I mean, I would have to venture back to sitting with Granny at the dining room table doodling. That would be my first introduction, and watching my uncle draw.
Take me there. Was it a artist pad, #2 Ticonderoga? Take me to that place.
So Uncle would draw with #2 pencils, pad, but he used color pencils to do a lot of his coloring in his pad, and he couldn't stand me looking over his shoulder. I can almost remember that like yesterday.
What were the doodles? What were your early, what do you remember?
Well, my early doodles were a face called Joe. So Granny would write the name Joe on a piece of paper, and then she would turn it sideways, and it would be a man in a cap.
Oh my gosh. So that's where it began. It sounds like that's one of your early influences. Other influences throughout your life?
Okay, so as I began to take it on serious, I found myself running through the art scene of Detroit, and I studied under quite a few artists, from Donald Calloway to Joseph Bernard from CCS, and I find myself still a part of Hubert Massey's coat lining. So I studied the art of fresco under Hubert.
Oh, so you
to
have
this day, yeah.
Definitely some masters, if you will.
Yes, yes. I would have to say that God definitely placed me under good tutelage.
So when you think about the various medium that you've worked in, talk to us about your exploration and that journey. You know, started with doodles. What came next?
What came next? I was quite creative. You know, I used to make hand puppets out of what's the little cushion that you would get out of the chairs.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Which, and excuse me, if she knew this, she would really be not happy. But
no one will know. It's just us. No one will see.
Eileen Finnegan was my art teacher from middle school into high school, and she took me from Columbus to, it was called Dorothy Fisher. Okay. And that's where I used to do my after-school art class. But under her tutelage, I explored many different things, painting with pen, the geisha girls that went on to show at the DIA. I made some puppets, some little karate guys out of wire, and clothed them and everything. It was a guy in a black suit and a guy in a white suit. They went on to the DIA. She kept me pretty active in the arts. So just being in her class had me inspired to just making all kinds of stuff, paper mache, just really active with my hands and being creative. So
it doesn't sound like you either have been bored, and it also doesn't sound like you've restricted yourself to one way of being. We were talking before the show about welding as well. So how did you get the confidence to just venture into these are quite different mediums?
I would have to say getting the confidence to weld came from a job that I was on. Okay. And the previous welder had left the job. So on a job like I had, which was at a prop studio, it's called Prop Art Detroit, we made 3D billboards. So they were sculpted out of styrofoam that they had metal armatures that had to attach to the billboards. So once the previous guy left, that left a hole, and I had to learn how to weld fast. I started with arc welding, and the boss would tell me it looks like crap, but all it's got to do is hold, you know. So I learned about this what would it be, exercise or so, where you test the weld. It was called the drop test. So you drop it from so high to the floor, and if it stayed together, you know, you pass the drop test, they call it. So yeah, that was my early experience in welding, and from there, it was just another tool in the box, and I just began to weld more, got more jobs that exposed me to welding, and before you know it, God blessed me with the job in front of teens to teach them to weld.
So you're doing that now, and you've done that for a while.
I do that as a 9 to 5.
So sharing that love of that craft in that way with young people, do they appreciate it? Are they excited by it?
I make sure they're excited by it. You know, I bring a lot of excitement to my classroom. I use art as a way of engaging the students in the classroom. I believe that welding itself is an art form, so I call myself teaching an art class with a welder as the tool, basically.
I have a feeling that today's art classes are very different than the ones back when you and I were in school.
Yes, they are.
A lot more hands-on, though, you know, and a lot more options. I mean, I remember having a drawing class with, you know, pencil and paper. I wish they'd had welding when I was in school.
I'm sorry, I just can't keep my mouth closed about this. Coming from Randolph in the inner city Detroit schools, they don't have a lot of art anymore. Okay, so coming over to the trade center where I worked, that was like their introduction to art. That's their introduction to, oh, I can make something with my hands, you know. So I found that to be kind of a superpower for me to really get them going and get them round up, and you just see their faces light up.
Well, we have just started to introduce our audience to you. In case they're not familiar with you yet, they will be. Stay tuned, we'll be right back and you'll hear more. See you soon.
Hi, I'm Peter, and there's nothing I love more than sharing vegetables with my friends.
Come on in! Help yourself to anything.
That's why we give our food the utmost respect it deserves. Did you know there are simple steps we can all take to help save food? You can cook it, store it, even share it. Just don't waste it. Because when it comes to food, better ache than never. To learn more, visit savethefood.com.
They call me Prince like I'm royalty or something. But the places I've lived ain't no palaces. So I don't need grilled salmon or a new scratching post. Just give me a cardboard box and a can of tuna and we're good. You can even change my name. I'm cool being the kitty formerly known as Prince.
Oh, emojis! I thought the conversation just got dumber.
Ugh, internet trolls, just ignore them.
I like you just the way you are.
I believe in you!
She's a hugger. Give her a squeeze.
Help up the hand!
Ah, there you go.
Thanks, mate.
You're killing it, Jane!
A full life, measured in seats, starts with the right ones early on. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Learn how to prevent deaths and injuries by using the right car seat for your child's age and size.
Welcome back to Celebrate Michigan. I'm Chris Benson, and joining me today is artist Nivek Monet. In the last segment, we were really talking about the many different types of art that you've done, and there's so much more we're going to talk about. I can't wait to get into these beautiful pieces you brought with you today. But when you look at things like this, at least when I look at things like this, it feels like, oh, this person's an artist. Like I'm sure that was easy for them. I could never do something like that. Did you ever have challenges or obstacles that you had to overcome in your career? People may see your pieces and just think like, oh, he gets up in the morning, yawns, like says, okay, let me create that. Is that how the process goes?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's the perfect world. You know,
Okay.
that's like your fantasy that, you know, I just want to get up and I want to paint all day, you know.
Yeah.
It used to be the way. Okay, the masters, they had it that way. In our modern world, though, there's a lot of things that keep us occupied.
Yeah.
They kind of keep us kind of distracted, I'd say, basically. And you really have to force yourself into that space. So challenges would be not having enough space at times. I find myself to be in cramped situations where you have these, I know we were going to talk later, but these huge pieces that you have to create inside of a small space. So I find myself just doing a juggling act at times to pull it together.
So you talked about that space, and so there's like literally the space, but then there's like the space, right? So when you think about the creative process of an artist, what is your process, and does it differ based on the piece you're doing?
It does. It has changed. It's, you know, I would like to say it's almost second nature now, because I don't put a lot of time into, I'm lying.
Well, I wouldn't have known until you told me, but now you got to tell me.
I couldn't spit it out. It takes a lot of time. I probably spend more time going through my thought process than I actually do with painting, per se. I'd say painting is second nature to me. It's like a eat, sleep, breathe, paint.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's, I hate to say it this way, but it's a little easier to me. But I also carve wood with the chainsaw, and that's been my latest excitement lately. You know, climbing on a ladder and carving totems has been my latest creation that's taken place.
So this is an interesting point you're bringing up to me that I really haven't thought of before. I think in my mind, when I see an artist, like you mentioned, the great artists, you know, I'm with one right now, but let's look at the historical ones. Okay, so I guess I imagine that you just sit down and you just start painting and you just keep going right through. I have never thought about all of that time on the back end before you ever sat down that you thought about what it was going to be. If I were to like plot the proportions of those, is it like 20% painting, 80% thinking? Is it like 5% painting, 95%? Like what would that be?
I would say for me, and I'm glad you brought that up, I do like to complete a painting in a setting, in a sense. Now it does take sometimes a couple days for a setting to complete its total run, but I don't like to put a lot of time in between my pieces.
Sure.
Because I get sidetracked. You know, I look at it like the energy that I'm putting into my work, I want it to come out in that single brush, that single point of excitement, basically, because that's where you have all the energy for that creation at your whim. You know, once you go away from that, it's like trying to stir that pot back up and get that excitement back. I'm not into it like that. I have a lot of energy for these certain creations that I think it all needs to spill out at that particular time.
I imagine that requires you to have a lot of discipline, because you mentioned, you know, you've got a 9 to 5, and creativity probably doesn't just come on at 5:01, and if it does, you're probably tired, right? So talk to me about the discipline that's required for an artist.
It changes for everybody. I will say that it is a point of discipline where at times you have to force yourself to that place, because sometimes, guess what, I don't feel like this. But what I do find is when I get myself to the space to create, once I turn it on, okay, all right, okay, we're there, we're going, you know. And then it's getting started with a piece a lot of times is not the funnest place for me to be, because you're not seeing the vision that you may have in your sketch pad, in your mind. It takes time to build those up, like the layers. That's what I always tell the students too, that painting is about layers. So you got to be patient and just kind of pile the layers on to see them come to fold.
To see what comes of it. And I'm intrigued by the chainsaw art that you're doing now. How did that come about?
Well, that takes us to answering the question of my first major project. I did an amphitheater at Rouge Park.
Oh, cool.
That piece was part of a contest of sorts where the community chose an artist to do this project. And I chose to do carved totems for the setting of this amphitheater. And it had a grass berm that, all this stuff. I had to command these heavy machines to bring in the dirt for the berm, to grow the grass, the concrete to be poured, oh man, my coworker would choke me for this. But there's a heavy machines were commanded.
My gosh, to make it happen.
This, yes.
Wow. Incredible, incredible.
And it was the challenge in doing something different. So being creative like that, I was inspired to do this chainsaw thing that I never did at the time. That was my first time carving then.
Well, we have to take another break. When we come back, you'll hear much more from Nivek Monet. Stay tuned.
They call me Prince like I'm royalty or something. But the places I've lived ain't no palaces. So I don't need grilled salmon or a new scratching post. Just give me a cardboard box and a can of tuna and we're good. You can even change my name. I'm cool being the kitty formerly known as Prince.
Open road, here comes the Heffley family.
Whether it's a short trip or a long haul.
Estimated time, 47 hours.
They will beg.
You're hungry? I'm happy to provide.
They will plead.
Deep fried butter on a stick.
But whatever you do, don't wimp out.
Now you're talking?
Make them buckle up.
He can't hurt.
Remember, safety first. Cheese curls, second.
Are you orange?
Fast-paced family life in need of a slowdown?
Hello, I'm Dr. Spruce. Did you know all those green shapes on maps are parks and forests? It's true. Visit discovertheforest.org and plan to visit a park or forest near you, instead of just wondering what it would have been like.
While the word forest might make you think of distant lands from far, far away, please note parks and forests are closer than you think, which means things like beautiful scenery, fresh air, and family time are also closer than you think.
You realize that 49 million Americans struggle with hunger? That's 1 out of every 6 Americans.
These people are around us every day. They're our friends, they're our coworkers, their kids go to school with our kids. Sometimes we're not even aware that they're struggling. This problem is closer than you think, but so is the solution.
Play a role in ending hunger. Visit feedingamerica.org/hunger and find your local food bank.
Celebrate Michigan. I'm Chris Benson, and I'm joined again by artist Nivek Monet. And you've seen these beautiful paintings that are on either side of us here, and I know that you've been wondering, like, what are those? So it's time for us to talk about those. Where should we start, Nivek?
Well, it's up to you.
Okay, let's start here. So, title?
It's human.
Okay. Tell me, how did this come about?
This one was kind of dealing, it went through a metamorphosis, really. There was a man and a woman on the DNA strand there. And the man was helping the woman up, and just going through the process, I said, you know, I need to simplify this more. The earth came into play because we are of the earth. And then, as you can see, this honeycomb deal that's going on is kind of the shield that I can see around the earth that keeps us inside the earth. And then you have your digital.
I saw that.
That's this whole AI thing that's being pressed upon us now. The figure is kind of a silhouette, but yet you see over the heart, it's got that same honeycomb that's protecting the heart, basically. The sun around the head is the point of inspiration, and just kind of the godliness of the human. And I don't want to give away everything, but there's also some message inside the DNA code that's in the silhouette.
I noticed that right when we were installing these pieces here in the studio so that we could have them, I went right to the letters that are there, and fascinating. And I was also taken with the hand. So there's lots of ways hands can be, and this looked almost like a struggle or a grasp. Tell me about this hand.
It's very good. It's a struggle and a grasp to keep your humanity, basically. So as you go down, you see that the DNA strand has green. I'm just going to call it what it is. It's plant blood running from the DNA strand. It's kind of running down the earth, and then it's also going into this AI foot of the human. And there is a word inside of that strand there that people would catch. I'll let you catch it later, though.
Okay. Maybe I'll check it out.
But I also incorporated fabric in the earth. So it's like fabric that was attached to these canvases and then painted on, which from this one to this one, that was the sort of the collaborative point of the two, also being man and woman.
Let's go to this painting. I hate to leave this because I feel like I can do a whole show on this painting, and we'll talk more, but this one now.
This painting is entitled Queen of Heaven, and that is the mother of all, basically. As you can see, she's standing on this silver leaf moon. Crescent moon, isn't it? Gold leaf stars around her head. She's the mother of life and death, basically. As you can see, she appears to be pregnant.
Clutching her. I noticed when I saw this, she's clutching her heart or her chest, and then her child. And you know, our viewers might be able to catch a glimpse, but from my angle, I can really see this 3D dimension. The fabric just comes out in these very dramatic waves.
So, being an artist and having to produce works of art, I often start in the DIA. All the paintings in there, most of the paintings in there are huge.
Large scale, yes.
So that's always been a point of inspiration, that when you create paintings, that it's just got to be sort of a spectacle, imposing to the viewer, basically, to kind of draw you in and you know, get you interested in what the story could be talking about.
What has the reaction been of people who've seen these?
They've been taken back, you know. Just been kind of taken back, trying to figure out how did I create these things the way I've approached it this way, like stretching these canvases, and everybody can't see that they are a couple canvases put together. Like this one I hid quite well, but this one, in order to get those in, they had to be two pieces.
Yes. I know our viewers are going to want to know, how can they find out more about you? Where can they find you online?
At nivekmonet.com.
Okay.
And or I'm at Nivek Monet 1 on Instagram.
Okay.
I'm on YouTube a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Just in the web.
Yes, well, as I sit and look at this, it's an interesting statement. It has been such a pleasure getting to know you today and hearing about your process. I know we will have folks taking a look at your work and seeing just all the wonderful things that you've created. Thank you for sharing them with us and for sharing it with everyone.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Yes.
And thank you for celebrating all the people and things that are so great about living in the Mitten State. We'll see you next time on Celebrate Michigan.